Hello, welcome to this week's Loose Lincs. As we have lots to talk about this week, as the second chapel place, or maybe even just a building, is accepting gay marriage as the second place in England. But is this all little or too little too late? Find out what we think. Also, we discuss a crime story tonight about a woman being a victim who is pregnant, but we change it around. If a woman at a crime who is pregnant, would we question if they're fit to be a mother? And we finish on the Euros, as everybody is upset this evening in England that England did do very well, but we question, as they celebrated at Lincoln Castle, is this too much of a big risk? All that and a lot more on this week's Loose Lincs. Hello, welcome to the Loose Lincs. This week, joining me on the panel is Claire Browning-May.
Hi.
Cat Counter, Cat Cornter,
Hi.
And Josh Reese. As we talk about on tonight's show, a building accepting gay marriage is the second building in England. But do you think we have hit that point? Love is love, or have we still got a long way to go? Also, we discuss about a woman being a persecutor that's pregnant, but we discuss, is it safe for a child to be with somebody that has a criminal record? And we finish on the subject of the Euros, as everybody's crying this evening. I still think we played well, but we discuss, do you think we're all ready for the 19th, or shall we prolong it that little bit longer if we could? All that on tonight's show. Good evening, panel!
Good evening.
Good evening.
Hi, first of all, welcome, Josh, to your very first show.
Thanks, be gentle.
We have a new panel member joining us. It was me approached Josh and said, would you come and join the team? They went through a certain interview and they passed it, and they're here today. So let's see if he enjoys it or not. He might get to the end of the show and go, no, I don't like it. Sorry, mate, not my thing. But we'll see. We'll see what happens. Let's start with last week's polls. As I always say, your opinion is just as vital as ours. Did anybody watch last week's show? It's going to be really bad if you all say no. Did anybody watch last week's show? No. It was quite an interesting one. It was about racism, and we hit some hard-hitting topics, really. And the polls were, are our youngsters today who play violent and abusive video games most likely to reenact when they see this as an opportunity? 64% of you said yes, 54% of you said no. Racism should be taught within family or to be unacceptable and reinformed throughout the child's school life. 80% of you said no, 20% of you said yes. And our last and final poll was, the great British public are known for their good manners, but is this a thing of the past? Are we getting too grumpy and losing them as we get older? 43% of you said yes, 57% of you said no. So quite a bit of a balance of polls this evening, but remember your opinion is just as important as ours, so please have your say on our polls, on our shows and on our discussions, because remember, you are the fifth panel member. So we start off with tonight's first topic, which is in Boston. Good evening, Boston, as we talk about you this evening. Chapel in Boston has registered for same-sex marriages, making it the second place of worship in the whole of Lincolnshire to do so. So, do you agree this should be happening now, or do you think, panel, this should never have come up and should always have been accepted? Let's go to you first, Claire.
I think it should have always been accepted, but then again, it's like everything, isn't it? I mean, for me, because it's my opinion, if you go on about racists and things like that, you know, I'm not racist. So, you know, so going to the racist part. So, I'm just getting myself confused now.
Same-sex marriage. So we're talking about same-sex marriage being in the church. Well, being in the church.
Well, why not? You know, there's always been gays and lesbians hundreds of years ago, but it's always been in the closet type of thing. So, you know, now it is more open and that. So why can't they express their love for each other by binding it through marriage, if that's what they want to do, like a heterosexual couple?
But Josh, some people would say that marriage is bound between gaining a child, really, having a child, binding yourself as one couple to have a child. Do you think that's now an old-fashioned way of thinking about it, and actually that we need to expand our minds about love and acceptance these days?
I suppose people have the right to be wrong, don't they? I mean, if you just boil marriage down to about having kids, what happens to everyone that's infertile or old and past the age of having kids? They might as well just get divorced then. There's no point. And marriage isn't always the be-all and end-all. It's not the big thing for everybody. I don't know. It's frustrating for me. I'm sort of in this place at the moment where nothing really matters all that much. So why should we worry about this sort of thing? But you have to when you've got people still killed in the streets just because they love someone slightly differently. So it's a long time coming, but it's nice to see small bits of change moving gradually forward.
Do you think, Kat, do you think that this should have been looked upon years and years ago and not just now? Do you think it's almost like if your face fits, you can do it, if your face doesn't fit, you can't?
I do think it should have been looked at, you know, sometime in the past, but I think in a sense, it's a lesson to, you know, we shouldn't take the past as, you know, and criticise what people have done necessarily in the past. We should take it, learn from it, think, well, you know, people are saying that, you know, this should have been done in the past, so let's get on and do it now. We can't go back and say because, you know, yes, it should have been done in the past, it's all wrong. We can't go to the past and change that. All we can do is go forward and say, well, you know, we think it should have been done previously, so let's make it more acceptable now, moving forward.
It's just hard, isn't it? Because the thing is, for it even to become in the paper, and I know why it's become in the paper, because it's same-sex marriage, and same-sex marriage is but it's so, as a gay man, I feel it's brought up a hell of a lot, me being gay, than me being who I actually am. So I don't know if I've said this on shows before, but I've been in pubs before and I've stood at a bar and this random person says hello, and you turn and say hello and they go, are you gay? And I just think, why do you need to ask that question? Why? Because I just want to, well, I'm Nick, I'm 30, I'm a support worker, I do this, I do that. There's so much more about me. Do you think we're making too much of an emphasis on this? Is this the way we are going to turn it into normal, do you think, Claire?
Well, I'm not sure. It just depends whereabouts were you. You know what I mean? It's like, is it a place that people, you know, a pub which is a gay bar? But if you were in a gay bar, they wouldn't ask you that, you know. So to actually, no, but I assume they wouldn't, because I have. Well, you don't
know nowadays. You can't say that nowadays. There's a lot of straight people that come into a gay bar now.
That's what I'm saying. Yeah. So, you know, for somebody to actually come out with that, you know, it's quite a rude question, really.
Do you think phobia, whatever phobia, is still very high up there, Josh?
How do you mean? Sorry, say again.
Well, phobia, so any kind of phobia, transphobia, homophobia, anything like that, any kind of phobia, do you think it's still very high up in talking point, and do you think it still happens quite a lot in the year of 2021?
Well, it does happen all the time, every day. I think when you're not in a community, it's very difficult to understand how regular the issues are. I think an awful lot of us, were faced with that when we had the murder of George Floyd last year or the year before. Because Lincoln and Lincolnshire wider is quite a white place. There's no getting around that. We're not very ethnically diverse. So a large chunk of us have then had to try and reevaluate and say, well, which bits of my life have not been made more difficult by this? And it's the same with sexuality, gender identity. I think people get freaked out sometimes that I look like this and sound like this. And I have to deal with it regularly. And you do get the slurs, you do get threats, you do get all sorts of inappropriate messages online. And it's a daily thing. It's that a cishet person might not have to deal with.
Do you mind sharing, Josh, what you describe you are?
I'm gender fluid or non-binary. I tend to present a lot more feminine because I look hella cute doing it. But but I guess that's the simple way of putting it.
Has it been a long journey? When did you come out as that? Is there a coming out story of that?
Publicly, only sort of in lockdown. I guess I got bored like everyone else. But it's been something that I've been sort of fighting since I was, I'd say, like 7, 8. Knowing something was different. But I grew up in Lincoln. It's not exactly an easy place to be openly different. So it's been difficult. But I have at least got an advantage in that I see, or I understand what discrimination feels like. I still have no idea what it's like to be discriminated against because of my race. And I do recognise I've been brought up with a lot of male privilege as well, because I've been presenting and brought up a male. So there's lots of things that I'm blind to. I just have to try and be open to learning. But at the very least, I know what discrimination feels like. And we're not, but we should be past a point in society where that's acceptable, to make anybody feel uncomfortable or unsafe just because of their, existence.
And I think that's the sad point about it, isn't it, really? That we're still in a quiet, love is love to me. And that leads me on to my second question. Let's go down to you, Kat. Do you think we are at the point of everybody accepting love is just love? There's no other question about it. Do you think we are in a society that accepts that now? Or do you think there's still a lot of education that needs to go behind that statement?
I think we're getting towards that point, and I think there's definitely more people who are, I think it's more of a percentage, sort of, that's getting up to feeling that love is love. And then, as it goes down the generations, more people are bringing up their children to be aware of that. But as humans, there's always going to be somebody who's, potentially even, 100 years down the line, who's going to, trying to say this politely as we're a family show, but basically just be an arse.
But the thing is, do you think then, this is a bit of a difficult question, let's ask all three of you, see who jumps on it first. Do you think there should be more of a bigger punishment if your identity or your sexuality or your race or anything like that is used against you? Should there be a bigger punishment to that, so people learn that it's not just acceptable, not just a slap on the wrist by the police and say, you're not allowed to do that, we're in a century that we're not allowed to do that anymore? Do you think maybe throwing them in the cell and locking the door for a couple of weeks might be a bigger advantage of learning how to accept everybody in today's society.
Do you mind if I jump on this?
Go on, Josh, go on, jump on it.
Now, at the risk of sounding, I don't know, you might not expect me to be saying this, but you can't police people's heads. It's not plausible, it's not doable, and it's not acceptable. I wouldn't accept someone policing my brain. Now, here's the problem with that, because I don't want to be murdered because I wear a skirt sometimes, or I like boys as well as girls. But at the same time, I respect that someone has as much of a right to think that being gay or being trans is wrong or weird as I do of it being right and normal. So when we come up with like punishments for hate crimes, it's sort of difficult. Should you punish it further because it was racially motivated or sexual orientation motivated, anything like that? Or should you just punish the actual crime itself, not what's going on in someone's head? Because there are always going to be people you disagree with, and that's going to go right down, like right up from what sexualities are and aren't real or acceptable, right down to whether or not custard creams are an acceptable biscuit to provide during afternoon tea. Like, there's always going to be people that disagree, but I think we just have to be consistent with crime and punishment, and I don't think we are.
Well, the problem is for me there with that in my head is that I don't mind debate. I don't mind I wouldn't do this show if I didn't like debate. I don't mind doing debate. I don't mind disagreeing. I think it becomes like you've said, let's open it out, that custard cream debate. Let's talk about it. There's no one personally affected by that debate apart from your own opinion, if your own opinion is heard. Mm-hmm. But when it comes to why do people think they have the right to express how they feel about somebody else's identity? And I think that's what really gets on my goat, is really, actually, if you've got nothing nice to say, don't say anything at all. If you have the opinion that you don't agree, don't stand on the street corner shouting about it, because actually, they say, don't they, that Pride's a very shouty event. It's not anymore to me. We will be talking about Pride on Saturday the 28th of August. We will be talking about Pride, but actually it's not about, look at us, we are gay, we are lesbian, we are transgender, we are non-binary, it's not about that for me. It's about, Pride has changed over the years. I didn't go to Pride when it was where I felt like you had to have a card to go in and fit in within that celebration. That has completely gone out the window now. Pride, the last couple of years, has been the pride of Lincolnshire, the pride of Lincoln, the pride of Boston, the pride of Spalding. It's been about the pride of everything. And actually, maybe we need to start pulling away about talking about, because to me it's us, and I think you're always, what I'm trying to say is it always becomes more personal and debatable when it's somebody's identity. And why do we need to discuss that? Why do we need to chat about that? Go on, Claire, jump on this one, go on.
No, like I say, I have got a disabled son, so therefore for me, he's always been discriminated because he can't walk. So, and as I've said before, you've got to try and put yourself in those people's shoes to just even get a glimpse of how they're feeling. But if you're not disabled or anything like that, then you don't have any idea of what that person's going through. I mean, I try my best as his mother. He's 17 now, but he's got a long way to go through this cruel world. And you'd have thought in 2021 that disability is getting better, which it has come a long way. And with the the Olympics. It's fantastic, but still, got a long way to come.
Would you be happy, Clay? Like we have the LGBT pride. What if somebody came up with a disability pride? A disability pride where people went and other people went to be educated, not to take the fun out of people, because I think that's, as a mum, tell me if you think I'm wrong, I think that's why that happens, because to a lot of people it's alien and they don't know how to approach it, and kids are kids, aren't they? So instead of approaching it the right way,
totally. And like I say, through going through supermarkets and that with him in his wheelchair, you get little kids saying, why is he in a pushchair, or things like that. And it's the parents then who should say, try and say, oh, no, you don't say that, or whatever. But I've always said to my son, you tell them, why are you in a wheelchair? But, again, it's difficult as well because you're talking children. He went through primary with the same set of children. And I really felt for him when he went to secondary, because then you're in this great big school of over 1,000 children and he was the only one in a wheelchair. So it is trying to, like you say, we've got nothing nice to say, then say nothing at all. But people don't do that because everybody's got an opinion, and it's all right for freedom of speech. But
see, that
I know. We've said this before, but
freedom of speech is a big thing for me, because the people that usually say, well, I've got freedom of speech, are the people that are usually saying, well, I'm right and you're going to listen.
Yeah.
And that's the point that gets me. We've all got freedom of speech, but actually there's lots of people's opinions. And if you are going to sit there and say, yeah, I've got freedom of speech, you have got to accept that everybody else around you has got freedom of speech. And a lot of people don't do that. A lot of people just go, I've got freedom of speech, and think they can win an argument by saying that. But does it sadden you that people are still fighting just to be themselves? Let's take pure example, for example, Philip Schofield, only a couple of months ago now, came out to be a gay man. It took him till his 50s, 60s to finally admit who he was. Do you think it's still a fight to be who you want to be nowadays? Josh, let's go to you.
I think that depends where you are and who you're with. I think if you're brought up in a place where it's generally more common, or at least more commonly seen and open, then it's not a big problem. And you just crack on because that's just part of life. I think if you grow up like here, you end up often, I mean, in my personal experience anyway, spending years trying to pretend that's not a thing, or trying to convince yourself you can change, or I forget the original question. Sorry.
Do you think it's still a fight to be who you are and who you want to be today?
Oh, then yeah, because it's a daily thing for me. But I'm a bad example. I can't even decide what gender I am day to day. But if you don't have the right support network, and finding that can be really difficult, especially when you're young, because you haven't built up those close friends. You have lots of friends, but you don't have close friends until, at least in my experience, until you're sort of mid-20s. If you haven't built that up around you, it's very difficult to explore you in a safe space, especially when you're fighting against like societal norms, whether they be gender norms or sexuality norms or anything like that. You're fighting toxic masculinity, or you're fighting against what is normal in your area.
Definitely.
I think that's the big thing as well, though. It's what he's said is support. If you've got support, then at least you've got something to not cling on to, but like when people say, I'm always here for you, this, that, and the other. But are you? But if you've got support of just a few close friends, I think that helps. In anything, in race, in disability, in life in general. if you've got that support, which a lot of people haven't. And I suppose in the lockdown, a lot of people have suffered with that, not having the support.
Do you agree with that, Kat? Do you think you've ever trusted somebody in your life? This is delting down to your personal life now, so it's how much you want to share. But have you ever had an opportunity where you thought somebody was close to you in your life and then you figured out they really wasn't?
Yeah, so I've known for, say, a while, but I've recently found out I'm autistic. And because of that, I don't wear a face mask when I'm out in public. I've got my lanyard. I know deep down inside that you can breathe through face masks. You can tell me till you're blue in the face and I'll go, I know you can breathe through them, but put one of them on my face and I start having a panic attack about not breathing, which then kind of feeds into the fact that the irrational part of my brain going, I can't breathe because I'm having a panic attack. And I had one friend, I've been quite close with, and she said something about how she'd gone into a supermarket and had a go at another person because they were a grown man and they weren't wearing a face mask, and with all COVID going around. And I was just like, I'm sorry, but knowing who I was, didn't even give me any chance to respond to it. She was just like, yeah, this is wrong. And I was like, I don't need that sort of support in my life. If you're not going to actually sit there and think, there could be two sides to it. Yes, the chap was 40, and, or, sort of, grown up. But it's that judging without thinking there could be another, there could be a reason behind it. Always assuming you're right. And I think it's, going back to the whole sort of, discrimination, I think it's okay to question and say, look, I don't understand. I don't, for example, going to Josh, not that this is my view, but, I don't understand how you could be, feel you're a man and a woman, or, to you, Nick, I don't understand how you can like men. But in a similar way, you could say to someone like me, well, I don't understand how, or, to my partner, you could say, well, I don't understand how you like women. They're weird.
Well, in your defense, men are objectively gross.
Not all of us. Not all of us, Josh.
Not
all of us. Just a percentage, no. Just a percentage. And Kat, can I just ask a few more questions about that then? I'm sort of going to put the spotlight on you a little bit now, a minute. Was you recently diagnosed autistic?
I was diagnosed at the start of this year. I'd been referred 2 years ago, but because of COVID, it was meant to be a 1 year waiting list, but was meant to be, but because of COVID, it ended up being a 2 year waiting list. But it had sort of, hadn't really felt like I fitted in.
Do you now?
I don't know whether I necessarily feel like I fit in, but I've got a reason for knowing why I don't, and that it's not necessarily my fault if I present a certain way. And because I've gone through life with lots of people saying, oh, you're really rude, or, you're standoffish, you don't talk to people. Bearing in mind I'm on here and I'm talking. But knowing that sort of, it's not my fault that, say, some of the things I say, because, may come across as rude. As long as I'm not meaning them, there should be some sort of understanding that it's, I might not have meant it that way.
Yeah, completely get that. And Josh, let's go over to you. Sorry, Claire, I'm leaving you out a little bit. We'll come back into the conversation, I promise. But Josh, being on this journey that you've been on to where you are today, I've known you for a very, very long time, Josh, really, since you were very, very young. And when you were young, you were quite this shy, giddy sort of child that always seemed to smile and laugh and joke at everybody and be a
little baby boy.
All of this. Do you feel like you are at your strongest point now, where you are now, because of the journey that you've been on?
Well, I have to have been. I've survived more than I had done then.
Yeah.
And I'm not dead.
No.
So I feel like I've learned something along the way each time.
Do you feel more resilient? Do you feel more strong? Do you feel more...
I feel like that's a tough question right now, because I mean, there's an awful lot going on in my personal life, and then you've got the pandemic stuff as well. That if we're going to be brutally honest, I'm really tired at the moment, and I'm genuinely struggling to make it through each day. But on a wider spectrum, in terms of like my life, I'm stronger than I've ever been. I don't think that Josh you knew working at the co-op could have pulled off the heels I can now, and deal with the looks, or be brave enough to share an opinion that isn't necessarily shared all that much in this area. Whereas now I feel like I'm pretty, bold in what, I don't know, like I stand by what I say.
Yeah, that's a good thing. Well, that's a good thing. That's positive. It's all positive. It's all a journey, and the journey hasn't finished yet, so it's all a journey. But my final question on this, going back to the subject, do you think this is all too little, too late for worship, churches and chapels to be involved?
I don't know. I think something Kat said earlier, I think kind of answered that question. I think it was you, Kat. I apologise if not. In that, why worry too much about what's happened in the past? Let it inform us, let it educate us, and forge our path forward. But let's just focus on getting further forward. If we spend too much time looking back, it's important to take account of the past. But if we spend too much time looking at it, then we'll lose sight of where we're trying to get.
See, I've got to be...
You're allowed to disagree. That's fine.
Yeah, but I've got to be really careful how I disagree here, because
Okay.
I'm a Christian, and I do stand by Christian values, and I've gone to church, and I've been accepted in church at who I am and stuff like that. But I have been in churches, and I have been in places of worship that will tell me that if I love the same sex, I'm going to hell.
Because they've read the Bible wrong.
Yeah, well, yeah, exactly. I'm spending eternity in hell. I'm not welcome. There's been refused communion at me. So how are we supposed to accept now that gay couples will step forward and go, yes, I feel happy to get married into a church? Come on, Claire, let's go to you. What do you think?
Well, again, like you say, that the Bible was written many moons ago, and that's how it was perceived then, and as times evolved, things have changed, people have changed. And back when the Bible was about, there probably were gay people who were then stoned. You know what I mean? But it was, I say, I know I'm old, but I'm not quite that old.
It still happens in some places in the world, Claire.
Yeah. So I just think, yes, I agree. I'm a Christian, but I just think, as we move forward, we move forward with the times. And, why can't two men or two women, if they love each other, want to get married in the holy place?
It's not even just about cultural context either, is it? Like it's literally a mistranslation. The passage people quote about a man should not lie with it's talking about sodomy. It's the translation, raw translation, is actually about an older man with a younger boy. It's condemning paedophilia. It's not condemning homosexuality.
I think the other important thing is to kind of isolate the church itself from the people who are running the church, and the actual beliefs and spirituality is not the same as, say, the vicar, the bishop, even an archbishop. That's just one particular person's feelings compared to actually what God intended. And if nobody can know what God intended, so we're going off what people are saying. But if you particularly are feeling that what you are doing is within the eyes of God and you won't be going to hell, then I think that's what you've got to focus on. It's not for, someone who, just one person, just because they're at the time representing the church. And it could be, say, 20 years down, even 200 years down the line, we might have a, gay head of the church. And they might be going, being everyone has to be gay.
There's a place in the life for me yet. Then there's a place in the life for me yet. Yeah, I completely agree with that. Also, Kat. Also, there's no gospel according to Jesus. There's been no magic hand from the sky with a pen and writing on the book what Jesus said. It's all man's persona of God. The whole Bible is all man's persona of God. That means that there were people watching, like there could be a car crash outside. Say like you were all at my house at the moment, there was a car crash outside, we all went running out. Police took statements. All 4 statements would be similar, but very, very different to what we think we saw. And I think that's what we've got to remember. But remember, you are the 5th panel member at home. Do you think we finally accepted love is love? Do you think religion and faith are far behind the running race and it's too little too late? You have your say and make sure you tell us what you think. It's just as important. So moving on, we talk about I'm just going to say somewhere in Lincolnshire because it's quite sensitive. People are appealing for a local man who assaulted a pregnant woman and a shop worker during allegedly shoplifting incident at Josh at Lincolnshire Co-op.
Obviously.
But we've changed the story around a little bit tonight. We've talked a lot about crime and we've talked a lot about persecutors and stuff like that. But we wanted to talk about if you were pregnant this evening. So this is a big storyline, really. So guys, do you think police should be looking at people committing crimes that are pregnant in being fit to even being a mother or taking care of children? Go to you first, Claire.
Well, again, it's like anything. Just because they're pregnant, you don't know their background. Just because she's pregnant, she might be desperate. As of like a tramp going in. Again, it's down to them visually looking, and it's a pregnant woman, so she's shoplifting, which is wrong. So why can't? She's not going to be able to look after her child because she's naughty, which, no, I don't think there should be personally a different sentence. They shouldn't look at her any differently, as in for her child, yes, as what she's doing, maybe, but look at the bigger picture.
But what if she's just doing this for fun, Claire?
How do we know that? The only way we're going to know...
I'm playing devil's advocate here. We're not talking about this story. So a pregnant woman has gone into a store, stolen a TV. The police go around and find where she is. She's living in this mansion. She's got thousands of pounds. She's got a cushy life and she's pregnant. And she's admitted to the police that she's just done it for the thrill of life. Do we think that's an okay mother to bring?
Well, again, I don't think it's the child's fault. So you already condemning that poor child to be separated from its mum just because of what she's done.
Yeah, I think you can be a criminal and a good mum.
Pardon?
You could be a criminal and a good mum. Like the two aren't always connected. I think it's very dependent. Yeah,
but the only thing is for me, what I think of in later life, if you do take that child away, then the child is going to be brought up to know that their mother was, wrong, and they have to be put for adoption for that. But were they? But that's what I'm saying. As in, is she wrong? As in, yes, she's got a cushy life. I don't know. But it's not.
No, I think what has got to me is that the crime fits the punishment. Every single time, the crime fits the punishment. And actually, if you've just done this for fun, for out of the world, for just a bit of excitement, your mates told you to do it, your mates told you to steal a bottle of wine from a corner shop, and you do it, and then this person is pregnant, you have then got to take into consideration, will this person have the capability of teaching this child right from wrong? Will this person have the capability to bring up this child okay? Because yes, there is that what if. What if this parent has just done something wrong? Yes, you're crucifying the child. Yes, that shouldn't happen, and the child should question why they've been adopted. But on the same respect, let's go down the route then that this child stays with their parents. Then this parent's child gets into worse trouble. The crimes get bigger because they've got away with one crime, they go on to another crime. The crimes, and there may be drug use, there may be alcohol use, it's going down that road, isn't it? So how do we protect, and what do you think we need to be doing? First of all, if somebody is pregnant and about to have and bring a child into the world, how do we protect this child from not being hurt, damaged, mentally damaged, all of that? Because yeah, you have what's it called? Not midwife? Who's the woman that comes round every couple of months when you first midwife? But actually, do you think there should be more mental support for parents out there that are struggling, that are in life of crime, that actually taking that child away is the worst thing you can do? But actually, maybe we need to educate this parent more. Maybe we need to start talking to this parent more. Maybe we need to be doing stuff, budgeting, money sorting out, all of that. Surely that's a better way than taking the child away and going, no, thank you.
But I think every story will be different, because you've said there, like, educate them on money and things like that. But if the woman that you was describing is got a great big mansion and everything, it's not about money. It's about the thrill of it. You know,
but money doesn't equal love in the same respect, does it, Claire?
It doesn't what? Sorry.
Love doesn't equal money. Money doesn't equal love in the same respect. So she might have this cushiony life from the outside, from what we're seeing, but actually indoors, the life is horrible. The life is hell. The life is.
It probably is, and that she's probably living with a drug dealer, and she'll be going down. But like I've said again, every case is different. You know, and yeah, they do have. Midwives. Is it midwife? You're thinking me now, questioning me.
I don't think it is midwife. It's somebody that comes round, isn't it? It's somebody that comes round the first couple of weeks of having...
Yeah, midwife. No, it's not midwife. Is it midwife?
I'm just waiting for this hypothetical to get further along. I mean, at this rate, if we carry on for too much longer, she's going to be Pablo Escobar with hippos.
Hey!
I think what you said, Claire, originally, like, it's case by case. It has to be, especially when kids are involved. There's going to be issues. I mean, crime doesn't necessarily make you a bad person. I mean, remember, it was illegal to be gay for many, many years. That doesn't necessarily mean being gay makes you a bad person. The law is not absolute. It's not what should rule us totally. And you have to look case by case. You have to sort of see, is this crime affecting the child in any way? If not, then why take the child away from their mother or risk that? We have social workers, we have programs, we have admittedly stuff that needs a lot more funding. I mean, harsh punishment isn't always the way. You have to do it case by case.
I don't know if I agree.
Yeah, well, I do, Josh. I'm with you. Yeah.
Okay, I'm not being aggressive about it, but yeah, that's fine.
No,
you're allowed to disagree. That's fine.
Yeah, you are, Nick. Yeah, we'll agree to disagree, Nick.
And of course, there are going to be situations, Nick, where you have to then start considering, is this person fit to be a parent? But then, even if you go down that route, just because someone's done something bad and has done all their lives doesn't mean they're going to continue to do that. Change is always possible, and I know it's really tough. It's really tough. It's why I'm glad I'm not a judge.
And that's it, isn't it? It's like the judge will make that decision, but will he go lightly on a pregnant woman because she is pregnant? But then, if the baby comes into the world and she's going to be like with social workers and all sorts. All the way along, and all we want is what's right for the baby, don't we?
That's of your opinion. You've been very quiet there in the corner. Let's see what you think.
I'll say I disagree with you and think that it needs to be done on a case-by-case basis, like
Well, I'm
everyone.
going home then. Enjoy the show.
It's my football. I'm taking it home.
Because you can say that, you might damage, the child. You could, by leaving the child with that parent, you could damage the child's life. But by then taking the child away in certain cases, you could damage the child's life. Because they could always wonder who their mother was, why she gave them up.
But there isn't just adoption, is there? There's foster care as well. So,
yeah.
So if I was in that predicament and I had the decision to make, and this person, and we found out a lot more about this person. So this person is innocently coming to the police station because we're going on an extreme case here. This is not in the news. This is just a made-up case. But they've come into the police station because they've stolen a bottle of wine. But then you find out there's more to it. So you find out they've got an abusive husband at home. They've not got a very supportive family. They don't have very supportive friends. They're quite scared about being a mother. They don't know if they're ready. They don't know if they're this. There is foster care now, isn't there, to say, to remove that child for a while, to take that child to a safe place, till social workers and people like that look at the case and deal with the woman a little bit more, put her in a safer place, make sure she feels strong enough, stuff like that. There's nothing stopping that child entering back into that parent's life again. So it's not like the be all and end all, the child goes, that's it, the child's never seen again. But actually, we really need to think about the safety of this child. Is this child, mental health is going up in the world. Is this child going to be damaged if we leave them here? And I think social workers nowadays have their hands tied to one decision, and that must be really, really difficult.
But yeah, but like you're saying, the social being taken out and put into foster care, that's been going along for years anyway. And I think that in that situation, but usually it's not the pregnant woman's first child. She's probably got 2 or 3 anyway. So therefore the system will know roughly what type of woman they are dealing with, being it right or being it wrong, So yes, taking the child away, but then you just taking the baby away, or there are other children. Do you know what I mean? Again, it goes back to each individual case. And yes, it's nice that they'll take it to a foster person who can have it for, a week, a month, or whatever necessary. But like you say, social workers have just got such a big job anyway. And
okay, so I think I'm gonna turn this into personal again, as I always do, because I think we're very good at sitting on the fence and looking into other people's lives and saying, this is what should happen, this is what we should do, this is what should happen. But Claire, say it was your daughter. Kat, say it was your sister. Josh, say it was your girlfriend. Would you all think it very differently to what you are saying now?
No, because you what you're doing right now is case by case. I don't think you realize it, but what you're doing is you're saying, well, this is the set of circumstances here. How are we dealing with it? This is the set of circumstances. That's case by case. As long as the foster thing remains an option but isn't the go-to, I think that's fine.
I think as Josh said, you need to look at. So if it was, say, the circumstances you described, then maybe foster care would be best. But it could be someone's first offence. Maybe it wasn't. It might not have been stealing. It might have been, they shouted at someone in the street and hit them, but they hit them because that person had been stalking them for ages. Well, on that situation, then you think, well, there's a background to it. It's the first time they've ever committed something. This person had been stalking them for 10 years. No, they shouldn't have the child taken off them. And then you get into a more extreme case than the one you were describing, which we could say used as a middle ground, and have someone who's with a woman who's with a partner who's sexually abused all her children. She's bringing another child into the world, and she refuses to leave this man. And it's clear that, from what all the other children have said, that this child's going to get abused very young as well. Then at that point, it's, potentially take off until she leaves the partner. So, there's got to be the options to look at things to go, right, on the most extreme case, we need to do this sort of thing in these circumstances. On the middle grounds, we need to potentially, take into foster care, provide the support. And, on a different case with a different crime, a one-off, because of extenuating circumstances, well, look at it like that. She's raised, potentially the woman who hit someone because they've been stalking her, she's raised 2 children. They're perfect children. They've got a good life, good mental health. Everything else is fine. She just flipped out at the stalker for, once, and, just lost it with them because he'd been making her life hell. So in that way, we've got to look and see, well, in those circumstances, what do we think? In those circumstances, what do we think? And in those circumstances, what do we think?
But do you think it's difficult when it becomes more personal? So if you are dealing it on a professional life, that's very different, isn't it? I have a professional life with people. I can't go any further than that to tell you what company I work in, but I have a professional life with people. It doesn't mean that I don't care, and it doesn't mean that I don't love and respect and all of that, but it's very different to dealing with a case at work than to dealing with something that may have happened to my sister having a baby. So do you think it's very different when it becomes professional and personal? Do you think that we might have very different opinions on that?
That's why that's in this hypothetical, forgive me for being blunt, James, but that's why you're not making the decisions on whether or not your sister's child goes into foster care. It's the social workers, it's an outside party. And I know the system's flawed, and I know there is always going to be cases that get lost and arguably the wrong decisions made, but generally speaking, that's why it's there, to be the outside where you can remove emotion and just be precise.
Yeah.
But again, though, going back to if it was my daughter, now it just depends on what age my daughter is when she's pregnant, because at the moment she's 14, so I'm not being funny.
That's a whole other issue.
I was going to say I'd lynch her if that happened, but it's really difficult as well, because like I've said before, with disability, until you are in that situation, how would you deal with it? So me talking hypothetical now, I could say this, but if it actually happened, I don't know. But as in going to foster care, if my daughter didn't live with me, I could have the baby.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly.
But, like I say, it depends on what the scenario was. At 14.
So have your say on our discussion. As you can see, it's very debatable even between the 4 of us. So make sure that you have your say in your conversation. Let us know what you think. You are the 5th panel member at home, so join in with the conversation. Polls will be up tomorrow night, so make sure you comment and you vote, because your comments will be read out if they're not offensive. Moving on slightly, did you all watch it last night?
No, Love Island wasn't on, was it?
Pardon?
What? No.
Gosh.
No, don't worry. I promise I don't watch. Yes. Yeah.
Oh, wasn't it disappointing?
No.
You were so close.
But then that's life, isn't it? That is just it had to go to penalties, didn't it? Just for all our nerves. And it was just one of those things. They played good up until, they played good. It's just typical. Sorry, not typical. It's a pity that they missed.
Yeah, and how they must be feeling today. But on the subject, screening Euro 2020 semi-final, final England, Lincoln Castle will be showing the Euro 2020 semi-final and final for England, which happened last night. On a big screen in a van zone, they should beat Ukraine on Saturday to reach the last 4, which they did. We made the final. But do you think this is just what community needs getting together, or do you think this is all still a little bit too soon and you've been locking your doors instead of socialising and meeting with people outside? What's your opinions on this, guys?
I think I'm kind of split. I don't know, I've been debating in my head as to how to sort of feel. I think there's a kind of clear debate of the rules seem kind of skewed at the moment. Like, you can have all the people, meeting at Lincoln Castle, yet you can't go to your child sports day, which is, I've seen a lot of posts like that on Facebook, parents being upset about that. I do feel that it is scary, and there is sort of like, having, I don't know how many people at Lincoln Castle, but say 60,000 people at Wembley. That's quite a lot of people there.
And no social distance was involved if you watched the game last night at all. No social
I didn't. So, but, I don't, but it's, it's difficult to say, having that many people in an arena. I mean, I've never been to Wembley. I don't know how quite big it is. So, they could have all been spread out, but so there's that kind of concept. But then I do also feel there has to be the vaccines being rolled out, and maybe it's a bit too soon, as some I think most people now have had their first vaccine, but some people haven't been double vaccinated. But when we get to the stage where the majority of people are double vaccinated, there has to be some sort of benefit to having the vaccine, and having have the scientists develop this and go down the route, and having the NHS work so hard to get it administered so quickly. There has to be some benefit to that, and some relaxations of the rules. Else, if the rules stayed tight and we can't socialise, then why was a vaccine even developed in the first place? So it's debatable.
Do you?
Well, again, it's like it's one rule for one and one for another. You get this football match. Yes, we do want things to get back to normal and have a good community spirit and things like that. But I was at a wedding on Saturday, only 30 people. You're not allowed to dance. You can only sit. And a couple of weeks ago, I've been to see live pretend groups. Again, if you got up to dance, as in you can dance on the spot, you had to put your mask on. But then you look at Wembley, as in yesterday, and, was the masks, was the social distancing, and how many hundreds of thousands of people were there? It's just like, and then exactly what Kat says, because, of course, I work in a school, and sports day, parents aren't allowed to come. And there's only going to be, they'll do it in different stages. But they can walk up the path, to bring to meet their children from school. Okay, they're only going to be there for 5-10 minutes, but but they're not allowed to watch their children on a sports day.
But do you think they're just trying? This isn't saying that this is my opinion at all, but I'm just trying to be devil's advocate here. Do you think they're just trying to say, let's all get loads of people into one big event? And actually, if there's no cases, if everybody's all right, if everybody's okay, we can then start to bring those other things back. And I know that's heartbreaking to think that they've gone to a massive event like a football match than maybe thinking about somebody's personal funeral. But do you think that might be the case, that actually let's try something big? And they were guinea pigs. They all knew that if they went to that match, it was the guinea pig for the government to find out if we could survive this. So if you did go to Wembley last night, you were a guinea pig. You were somebody that was being tested to see if you caught coronavirus. Then trying to do it slowly, because if we do it slowly, if we do it in the events of family sports day, funerals, stuff like that, we're not really going to get the scientific numbers to work out if we're getting any better or any worse than if we went to a big event of Wembley. Do you agree? Silence is in the air.
There's still people dying though, isn't there?
Yeah, it's weird. I mean, there are loads. I mean, how many guinea pig events do you want? You've got the football, you've got Wimbledon, you've got Matt Hancock's office. You've got so many spaces, and the problem is it's not being taken seriously. We can't discuss this properly because the people in charge have not taken it seriously and have expected us to. They're currently talking about getting rid of the mask mandates and just going, we trust the general public to be. Don't trust us. We're stupid. No, I'm being like. It sounds funny, but I promise you, I'm not joking. We are dumb. We are really dumb because we're people and we want to see our grandma again. And we want to go out on the lash with our mates that we haven't seen for nearly 2 years. It's natural to want to do that. Your original question, I think, was. Is this exactly what we needed with these crowds and this event stuff? Or is it too much too soon? The answer is yes. It's both. It's exactly what we needed. We needed a sense of camaraderie and stuff. And obviously many took it too far, and it's the side of football I hate, besides the actual game itself. But it's also too much too soon. I just want to live in New Zealand. It just really makes me wish that we had Jacinda instead of Boris. A woman that actually knows what she's doing, as opposed to, a possessed muppet that's come on.
Okay, Josh, let's be asking this then. Do you think people are thinking of the illness of the family, or do you think people are doing what they like and being selfish?
Yes, both. I mean, it depends who you're talking about. I mean, I was at a friend's house watching the game. Some would say that was irresponsible because we're like all 6 of us were from different places. But where I'm coming from, it's we've kept the same 6 people, and we've told anyone someone's had a sniffle, we've put it in a group chat, and we're going, all right, well, they're out.
Gone.
And it's how you feel safe. Some people have taken an educated guess at how safe the castle will be. But yeah, it's safe enough. We've got just over, I'm looking now, we've got 51.8% of the population fully vaccinated. So it's getting more safe. It's about taking those risks. And when the longer you're in this sort of pandemic world, the lower your standard is for those risks because you miss it more. Does that make sense? Definitely. I don't know if I actually answered your question. That's very
You did. But this is the question for all 3 of you. Are you all ready for the 19th? Do you think
oh no!
Still a bit too soon? Are we all ready to remove the mask, to hug everybody we see, to dance on dance floors? Are you all ready for that on the 19th of July?
So once again, I'm kind of split on that, because there's part of me that is sort of looking forward to going back into a shop and, not feeling like I'm going to be judged for not being able to wear a mask, and not have people say, like, look at me, or, be worried that someone's going to come up and say, shout at me or have a go at me for not wearing a mask. And it's quite nice to think, actually, I can go into a shop and not worry about that. But there's the other part that thinks, is that being selfish myself? Because technically, are we actually ready? As Josh was saying, as humans, we aren't particularly the cleverest people. I mean, I know we talk about news stories here, but it shows from what's been going on in Sleaford, say last night and today, because England lost the football to Italy, people of Sleaford decided to trash an Italian restaurant, which had absolutely nothing to do with football. And actually, it turns out the owner was British. So kind of you going on the concept of, we don't have much of a brain here, particularly when alcohol's involved.
But the thing is, that is what I've missed. And I don't care about wearing a mask in a shop. I don't care about...
I was going to say, you don't mean smashing up shops, right?
No, I don't recommend that at all. Can I just say that? I don't recommend that at all. But actually, Loose Linc now, Josh, I know you're very new to the team, but Loose Linc now has been running for 2 years. And in 2 years, not one of us has met each other. And I'm actually kind of looking forward to that now. I'm looking forward to us all being together and meeting each other and meeting the actual panellists that you do like, and then avoiding the panellists that you don't like, and just all getting together and finally meeting each other, because it hasn't felt real. We've just done it in front of a video camera every week, so it'd be really good to finally get round there. But I do get what you're saying about, is it selfishness, or is it, well, actually, if the people aren't doing it, but that's a whole different topic on a different show, isn't it?
Well, if they haven't got to, you know, like if so from the 19th, then everything's out the window. Me personally, I'm still going to wear my mask because it's great for me double chins. Like it all goes in there and then they can't see it. You know, if I need a bit of a wax, you can't see it. So everything's out. Don't have to replenish my lipstick. So for me, that would be great. But no, seriously, I will still wear one when I'm shopping and that, you know, up until I know what the levels are like. I'm not going abroad this year. Made sure. I want to, you know, make sure that everything's safe.
Sure. You want to make sure?
Make sure. It's my age. I'm repeating myself.
Just make sure, Clive. Make sure.
Make sure. So yeah, I will still stick to a lot of the things, and yeah, I can't wait to get together. Hence, at the end of next month, you lucky man.
We all get to meet Josh. I need to tell you about that. Actually, I need to.
So some things I am, and I will do a lot of things, and not a lot of the other until I know what's what.
Exactly. So, unfortunately, guys, that brings us to the end of this week's Loose Links. Thank you for joining us on your Tuesday evening. The person will you please thank my panel this evening? Joining me, Nicholas James, as we've heard tonight, hates every human being going, and that's Josh Rees.
People suck. They just do.
The one that's had, I'm sure, a four-legged animal beside her all the way through the show, and that's Cat Culture. And to finish us off, she's especially shaved for us this evening. That's Claire Brown in May. Just a quick announcement for the next 2 weeks' shows. I've set Josh off now, it's all right, just let them carry on. The next 2 week shows, we are doing quite the normal show next week, and then for the 27th of July, Tuesday the 27th of July, is our last show of the series. Can you believe that, guys? Over 50 shows we've recorded now, but it is the last show of the series, and every panel member, hopefully, who can make it, will be on the show, because we're having a bit of a loose party to finish one on Monday the 26th of July. Shut up, Josh. I saw your face then. Shut up. So make sure you join us for that, because it's supposed to be a very special show, and we will be returning, I think it's September the 6th, Tuesday, September the 6th, for Loose Links Series 3, with a bit of a difference, so you'll have to wait and see to see what that difference is. Thank you for joining us this evening, and we'll see you same time, same place next week. Thanks for joining us. See you later. Bye-bye.
Bye. Bye.